Hello and welcome everybody back to another episode of Spotlight Hour. Today, we've got a really fun episode for you guys. How do we know that? Well, because we've done this once before. Christina, welcome to the show.
Hi, nice to see you guys again.
Good to see you again, too. So, for a little context for all of you, we filmed this episode about a month or so ago. And as it just so happens sometimes, files got corrupted and we lost the recording. So I can already tell you guys, this is going to be one you're going to want your pen and paper out to take some notes on. Christina is a well full of knowledge and she is a kick ass therapist. So you guys are in for a treat here. So, Christina, give everybody a rundown about who you are and a little bit of your story here. And we'll get into saying more.
Yeah, thank you for that awesome intro. Everyone, I'm Christina. I am the owner, primary therapist and recovery coach for Christina's Counseling and Recovery. It is fully virtual. I am based out of San Antonio, Texas. So I provide therapy for Texas specific residents, but recovery coaching nationwide. So I have a big reach. And my passions that I specifically work on in my practice goes from addiction, eating disorders, and trauma. But I've honestly have been in the field now for about 9 years, going on 10 years now total, and I've seen everything, worked with everyone, young, old, rich, poor, executives, everyone in between, lived with people through recovery, prison work, foster care, facility management. So I have a big, broad that I've been able to really, like, reach out to, and so I wanted to really put it back together into myself and my own practice to really focus on the solution aspect of therapy and recovery. I don't want it to be like I've told before, I don't want it to be just a cycle that people go through, to where they're constantly in therapy and they feel like they need to be in therapy for the rest of their lives, and this is just an ongoing thing. Like, therapy's supposed to end. There's supposed to be a deadline for that. You should heal, you should recover, you should be able to learn these things in the appropriate way, but with that comes a lot of confrontation and a lot of accountability, and that's big on my style. I don't like to waste people's time. So, when you come to me and you work with me, we're going to address the issues head on. We're going to change up your perspective. We're really going to face the things that you can control. Yes, we'll go through family stuff. Yes, we'll go through trauma stuff. Yes, we'll go through the history of it, but we need to move on from that. And I really focus on helping people understand, understand your own story, grieve from that. But the part of grieving is healing. And we got to move forward. We got to live a new life, a better life that you are looking forward to. And that's what I create for my clients.
Unbelievable. You have that honed in. Yeah, honestly, sounds like you have really good systems in place and you've been through this so many times that you know, like, what is the exact blueprint to follow with all of your clients.
Yeah, exactly. I think just the different sectors that I've been in have really been able to just expand my knowledge. I'm an ongoing student no matter what. So I'm always curious about new ways, new methodologies, new things that are coming up. And I have been super fortunate. I have worked with so many systems. I think that's the important thing. And Alex, you really hit that is when you really are part of systems throughout this career. I mean, it's crazy to say it's been 10 years that I've started this. I started this when I was in my like 21 years old. I set foot in a prison for the first time, being like, I think I can do this and I can be a counselor. And from all the systems that I ran, from being the direct counselor, being the person on the floor, the worker bees that they like to call us, from there all the way up into corporate management and developing programs around Texas and looking at what that looks like from all angles. So, not just as a therapist, but as management and what that looks like in true leadership. Until finally, I'm like, I need to run my own business. I need to have my own practice, which was always the goal anyway when I got into this field. But when the laws changed recently, back, I believe, in like 2022, when associates were able to start their own practice as long as they had a supervisor that was willing to back them up. I've been working with mine for 5 years, and she was like, absolutely, like, without a doubt, please run your practice. And I'm like, okay, great. As long as I have your support, let's do this. And ever since then, I've been able to really take the impact that I've made in all these facilities that I've worked with and finally just tailor it to my own style, be my own boss. I don't have to check in with anybody else besides me. And honestly, that's how I like it. I trust my judgment 100% on the care that I provide to my clients.
So when did you start up by yourself with your own practice?
So this will be my first year full time in my practice, but I opened it last year in October.
I see. Okay. And I guess How important would you say your supervisor was in, this decision?
Oh, she was the end all be all of that. I mean, if she did yeah, I would not have been able to do this if she didn't agree. That was literally the only, parameter that we had to follow once the laws changed. Because yeah, I would not be able to do this if she not didn't put her name on it too. And it's taking the accountability, right? Because if I screw up and I get sent to the board, it's gonna be on her too. But she's like I said, she's worked with me since I was in grad school and has really seen me progress. And she's seen more of the in-person work that I do. So before I moved from Houston, I was seeing her in person and serving the kids that she's at, which is a kind of like a I would say a foster home or not. It's like an orphanage in a way, but it's like nicer. It's more private placement. But it's still just a pretty name for a really like sad facility that they carry. And so those were the kids that I was working directly with. And so she got to see the groundwork of where my skill set's really shown. And her and I are a lot alike. We have a lot of parallels in our story and kind of why we landed to where we're at. So she is absolutely pivotal in this decision. And then she continues to be the greatest support for me because at the end of the day, she same style. If I need to get checked, she checks me, and I love that. And it just keeps us both in line of like making sure that we're really putting the client's needs first, and assessing ourselves as well during the process.
It's amazing. Honestly, I love hearing that about having a good relationship with a supervisor and, confiding in them. And at the end of the day, they trust you to do this and, obviously help more people.
Yeah.
Something you mentioned earlier that I really wanted to touch on was you moved to telehealth only, right?
Yeah, so telehealth only, I do provide in-person work in the San Antonio area and surrounding, but it's more exposure work. So I won't be going to your home or anything, but we'll meet out in the community. So this is more specifically applies to my eating disorder clients. So if they struggle going out to eat in public and trying to challenge themselves, trying different foods and stuff and socially eating, that's kind of the kind of work that I do in person. So if they're willing to do that exposure work, that's the in-person type that I provide. But other than that, virtual is pretty much 99% of what I do. And it works. So people love the comfort of their own home and staying in there. But if they need a little more support, that's just assessed throughout the time that I'm working with them.
I love the in-person aspect. Honestly, something I've never heard of before. I mean, I'm not too familiar with the eating disorder aspect of things, but going out and, sitting with a client while they, do something with you, like actively, managing their problems is insane.
Yeah, I mean, it's the most effective, because that's also dabbing into, like, recovery coaching, so typically you don't see that, like, what I'm talking about is a normal private practice therapist doing that. It's always, like, come to the facility or come to my office, and you'll do it here. It's something about being able to meet the client where they're at literally, and figuratively, like, doing that, but because I'm used to it, so because I managed and worked in a residential setting, we did a lot of outings with clients during that time, so I kind of broke the ice of what it already looked like to do it in a community base, and then when I started recovery coaching, so actually going and flying out and living with people for a month at a time, 2 weeks at a time, it was all community based, like, I'm taking you out of the house, I'm taking you out of the environment, and we're living real life and doing recovery in real life and not just talking about it and being theoretical, like, this is action, and this is what it literally feels like to be recovered. So once I had all that experience, I just felt like there was just no way I wouldn't incorporate that into my own practice.
So when you were a graduate student, was all of these things that you're doing now something that you were thinking about before?
Absolutely not. One, in grad school, I love the program that I was at, but they actually discourage, in my perspective, they discouraged my coaching style. And I had no idea what that was at the time. I got recruited to be a coach 2, 3 years ago at this point. And that's what I had been doing. But back in grad school, I had kind of the cookie cutter approach of I'm going to become a therapist and then I'll have a brick and mortar office or right, I'll rent a place and that's what it's going to look like, just like everybody else at that time. And as we kind of went through the stages and we went through the classes, a lot of the feedback that I did get that was a little controversial for me was that I was too coachy and I didn't understand really what that meant at the time and why it was such an issue. And I had conversations with my professors and they were like, "Yeah, well, your role is to just, identify emotions and kind of see how they're feeling and let them kind of, get to that place." And I was like, "I understand that, but if a client is coming to me and they're lost and they're confused and they're coming to me as a professional asking for guidance, I don't see why I can't provide guidance. Like, it's not like I'm threatening the client being like, well, if you don't do it, then I'm discharging you or we're not going to work out. It's like, this is what you should do because you're asking for change. Now, if you don't do it, let's talk about that. If you do it, let's see what the outcome was. And it was a battle about that at that time. So obviously, right, I'm the student. I gotta, listen to what's going on. And so I did comply during that time. But as I continued to progress in my career, I was like, no, this is the way that it should be done. And I'm seeing results and the clients are giving me good feedback and everyone is actually watching their lives change. So I'm not going to stop that. So if anything, I wish grad school at this point can start integrating some kind of coaching approach or some type of more motivational style where therapists feel comfortable enough or confident enough to confront. If we're all just dancing around the same issue, that's exactly what got the client to where they're at in the first place. Why are they going to pay to just ride that same circle with me?
Sure, sure. It sounds like there's a lot of adaptation you have to go through to, get to where you are and kind of break through.
Yeah.
I have an interesting question for you. One that is kind of piquing my curiosity at the moment. What would you say a personality trait or two would be of therapists that, they've just graduated and they need these personality traits to adapt and to get through?
Ooh, okay. Resiliency, number one. Um, Accountability and confidence. You have to, even if you don't fully feel it, because when I was doing recovery coaching and going into the homes, I was also part of coaching other coaches and teaching them like how to handle it and how to, create a successful case when you're in someone's home. And this misconception was that like, oh, you're not nervous. Like you're never nervous. You're never anxious. You're always just so like you're so confident in it. It's like, yeah, I'm confident, but you have to understand I'm also going into a stranger's home. I've never met these people. I've just done one Zoom intro and I got an assessment about them. And every time I go into a home, it's never what the assessment was. They all act different now. Like now they're in person and now they're comfortable in their space. So I would always tell people it's not about just acting that way. Like you just have to know that you will get there at some point. Like it's going to be anxious. Like you're going to feel these emotions, but being able to know that you can trust yourself in your own process, that no, you're not going to hit it right away in the beginning, but you need to be able to be resilient. Like you need to be able to adapt and you need to own your own confidence that you're going to feel growing pains. You're going to feel adjustment pain. That's just part of it. And that's exactly what we teach our clients too, is you have to do it scared. You have to do it anxious too, so you can get to that place. And I feel like if you have that, you will be successful in this. And more so with the accountability too. Like you don't know everything. I don't know everything, even though I've been in the field for a long time. I know a lot and I know a lot of patterns. But till this day, I still have clients in session where I have to check in and be like, this is my assumption. This is what I think is going on. But you let me know if it's true, if it's right, if I'm hitting it. And they have the confidence too and the comfortability to be like, actually, no, that's not what I'm thinking or feeling. And it's like, you need to be able to hear that too as a therapist. Like, just because you're the professional doesn't mean that you are an expert in their lives and in their mind and the way that they want to do things. And I feel a lot of egos get hit in session when that dynamic happens. And I see a lot of therapists kind of crumble from that. And then that imposter syndrome is what I hear a lot about, come up and then they kind of fall into that. So those are my top three that I feel if you have that, you would be real successful in this field.
One of my favorite things about your style, Christina, is the fact that you know your stuff. You like in and out every single way. But you don't have an ego about it. You've got that humility with it. You ask your clients, like, yeah, and you have those moments of reflection with them, like, "This is what I'm thinking. Is this what you're feeling? Like, does this align?" And that you're open to that feedback because so many people in every industry, we often operate on assumptions. We see these patterns, we see these things, but there's always exceptions to these. And being able to take a step back and make sure everybody's on the same page before proceeding goes such a long way with building so much trust in the whole process as well. And then taking a step back to walk them through each and every piece, providing that guidance and direction is one thing I really love. And what I kind of wanted to touch on here is because one point you keep hammering and is the difference between therapy and coaching? And
Mhm.
that's was what was kind of hammered into you.
Yeah.
I wanted to kind of get your perspective and see what do you see as being the biggest differences between the two, and where do you think they intersect?
So the biggest differences is I feel with coaching, you're allowed to be more real. Therapy, we gotta think about our ethics, we gotta think about the board, we gotta think about the way that we're presenting, and then we have a supervisor that we're representing as well. So there's a lot of barriers, and which I also appreciate. I totally agree with how we follow it. I do believe I wish like coaching had some kind of boundary to work with too. But if you are a therapist going into recovery coaching, utilizing the ethics that you've already learned and the ACA code that we follow, like do that. And that's still the same concept. But with coaching, yeah, you get to be much more real. You get and allowed for that. There's a much more relaxed approach with coaching. There's not really a guide that you're following. It's literally you are the one who has walked this path, who has recovered, who has done this, and you are guiding someone through that, whether it's a path exactly like your own or whether it's a different type that just kind of branches off of what you did and then it's tailored to the client. Versus with therapy, we have all the official forms. We have the official diagnosis and the official assessment and the official codes, and all of that stuff has to go down with that. And then we're constantly updating on a treatment plan and we're assessing those goals. And we're literally just preparing for an audit. That basically is like ensuring, right, if the state comes in and we need to look at this, if this client on paper is properly taken care of, you can do all of that in coaching. It's just not so official and it's not, no one's gonna come in and audit that. And I think where it intersects, where I wish this was integrated more, and I hope it starts to be, is the confrontation process. Is for whatever reason, coaching, I guess because there's not all these liabilities with it, you can be a little more real. Now, I'm not saying go off on your client, but you get to kind of, like, take off the professional coat, and it's just human to human at that point. Like, this is just, like, another friend, another person, another confidant that you have. And I feel like we need to be that way in therapy or at least be told that you're allowed to, because there's a lot of things in therapy, like don't self-disclose, don't say too much, don't cross boundaries, like be the professional. And you can do all of that and be real. And I think that's where it's also super important in session. Because I have had clients over the years who have tested boundaries and have tried to cross things, but it's like, it's not gonna get crossed here, and I'm going to let you know in a very respectful way, in a very open way, like, why that's not appropriate, kind of where that's coming from just in your own self of why, like, things are trying to get crossed, and then let you know that it's not gonna get crossed, and so me holding my own boundaries and understanding that I can play both roles and still give a therapeutic approach and still give a great therapeutic outcome with healing, utilizing both approaches without being scared, without thinking that I'm doing something wrong because I know I'm not. And I know I can defend everything that I do and say and that I recommend. And at the end of the day, it's always a recommendation. I'm just here to give you what you are asking for. But if you don't do it, that's fine. We can talk about those mistakes too. I'm not going to leave, or we can talk about the outcome that you created because you followed the steps that you asked for.
Was there a specific moment in your career or schooling where, like, these pieces kind of clicked for you? That the coaching side is what really also appealed to you? Because what it sounds like to me at the end of the day is that in at least in your style, that allowing yourself the opportunity to be a coach and a therapist makes you better at both.
Yeah. I had no idea until I got into coaching. At first, I thought, oh, well, because I've managed and I've supervised teams successfully and I was able to hold that title very well, I imagine, like, oh, because I'm a good leader, that also makes me a good therapist because I know how to delegate, but I know how to adjust, I know how to connect and build trust. So I actually tailored it more, I think, more of my management career in making me a better therapist until I did coaching. And then once I did coaching and I was finally released from the bounds of corporate life, I was released from the bounds of residential, because even in residential and in facilities, you have all of these policies and licensing things that you have to take into account too. So it's just it's much more delegated in a way that isn't helpful for the client. And there's just a lot of politics behind that. But once I got to do recovery coaching where it was just me by myself going into a stranger's home across the country, and I'm gonna be there for 2 weeks to 30 days, and the owner at the time was like, yeah, like here's a coaching plan, but you can adjust it, you can change it, you can see us fit, you're the one there. So you lead it. You tell that home and you get to decide how this treatment is run. And then we'll check in at the end of the 2 weeks, at the end of the 30 days, and see how it's going. And I had full reins of it. And so to see that play out the way that it did, and I saw healing literally in a day-to-day process. And we don't get to see that as therapists. We see you in crisis and we help you through it. And then you leave us when you're better, or you transfer to a higher level of care because you're not getting better. We don't really get to see that real-time healing like I did in coaching. Coaching, I got to see real time where at the end of 2 weeks, people were like, "We're good. There's nothing left," like, "Oh my gosh," or at the end of the 30 days. And for me to have experienced that, one, at my own hands, and two, just for me to visually see how quickly I could get people there too, it's like, "Oh yeah, why are we wasting time? Why are we making this harder than it needs to be? We can do this." And we all need to be able to see that all of us have the potential to do this. We're the ones holding ourselves back because we're scared of how we sound or how we look, or mistakes are made. And it's like, no, like screw up in front of the client and show them how a comeback looks like. Like make a mistake. Don't be perfect, and show them that it's okay to do that. And that was the most healing process. And once I did that, I was like, oh no, this now proved to me I need to have my own private practice. I need to do it my way, my style, and literally give the healing that I know I can create to others in my way.
When you started up your own practice, as from the coaching perspective, did you ever have any concerns or fears about how you appeared to people, how you presented, and making sure that you were able to get in front of the right people?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've never ran a business before. I knew I had run businesses for other people, but at the end of the day, it was just so different for me to do it because it was me. It was my risk. It was my consequence or win that was going to come out of it. So I was just more nervous that I no longer had a name to support me. That was my biggest fear. I'm not necessarily afraid of like how I come across to people and what people think. I was more afraid that to the entire public and to my entire audience, I am new. I'm a rookie in their eyes because they don't know my work. They don't know me. And I'm just another therapist slash coach who is claiming to heal people and is claiming that I know all these things. But how many therapists have done that and failed and haven't met that? And I work with a lot of clients who have come to me. I've gone through 5, 6, 8 therapists already. Like, this is bullshit. So I don't know what you can do different. And it's like, oh, okay, those are my favorite clients to hear, but that was what I was afraid of, that I knew I was new to everybody else. When I was running businesses for other people, I had big corporate names behind me. So they would come to the corporate name and be like, oh, and then here's our top therapist, here's our person. So I always had just the name of the company versus now here's a name that was just created that nobody knows, and building up my reputation at that point was the scariest and the hardest that I knew I just had to build. But in my head, I'm like, just give me one session and you'll stay.
How have you begun getting out in front of more people and building that reputation on your own? What have been like the most successful tools and tactics for you so far?
So I have to reach out directly. We're a big networking community with a therapist. So if you can get with more so, I've been more successful with business coordinators for different facilities, and then platforms online. ZocDoc has been my biggest lead provider throughout this whole process. I've been through other ones, pretty much all of them I've signed up for, but I feel ZocDoc has been the most important and the most viable that's come out. But doing conferences, getting in front of people, going out to luncheons with people, visiting facilities and communities and doctor's office, and then the good old just door to door by hand, going to businesses and giving out my products. So it's been more of just how much can I reach and how fast can I reach people in the communities. And there's more details that I look at of like median income and stuff just to make sure, because I am a private pay practice. So I can't go to facilities that are focused on insurance because I'm not focused on insurance. Also understanding that I'm hitting the crowd that is able to afford it or at least close to it. And then it just takes some more convincing on just like the worth that this is going to cost. Like, how much are you going to spend going to a facility to get treatment? It's much more expensive than working with me, and I can get you out faster than a facility would.
So when you're saying that to people, who are you selling that to? Are you selling it to the clients or the facilities?
The facilities and the clients right now do word of mouth for me. So that's what's great.
Love it.
Yeah, my referrals are coming in. That if it's direct referrals, it's with the clients that I have now. So their family, their friends that are coming through. And there are on other support communities and other support groups that they follow. And I had a couple referrals come in from that as well. They had met in support groups and they're like, oh, you're going to be perfect for them. So I'm starting to get more of that, which is really awesome. But yeah, when I am pitching, I'm going to direct facilities, business development, and sober living, like facilities that are hearing this. And so that way they can pass it on to their clients. And it's usually during the discharge process. So I would come in as like continuity of care once you're done with your program and you're graduating, or you just want something different, kind of passing it off to me than it is just kind of the person randomly looking for therapy or recovery coaching. But those are starting to trickle into thanks to ZocDoc.
I love it. I love it. I love how fearless you are with your approach to everything as well. You see what you need to do. You see where you can add value to people's lives, and you don't hesitate to take action.
No, because I've seen it work. It's different when you see it work, and I think that's where the confidence comes into. It's like, I know that this can work and I know that there's processes to this, and really being encouraging, like, I don't care about your diagnosis in the sweetest way that I can say that. Like, it doesn't matter. I really want to help people kind of break away from that and being like, oh, I'm borderline, I'm bipolar, like I can't get help. It's like I've seen and I've worked, and those are my top favorite clients to work with too, because people don't want them. And they're like our therapists that just like give up on them because they're too erratic and all over the place. And it's like, no, they just need more boundaries and more consistency and people guiding them in a structured way to where we're not going to give in to the symptoms anymore. We need to regulate them and then still move forward. But it does require a lot of patience and it requires a lot of time. And again, putting your ego down, because these are also the type of clients that will, call you on your bullshit if you're just like therapizing them from the book and you're not like getting to know them and you're not understanding their specific case. Like, we can't treat you like any BPD. We can't treat you like every other bipolar person. It's like, you are different. You have the same diagnosis, but your story is different and the way that you got here is different. And clients know when you're looking for that and just looking to soothe symptoms and get a check. And they're so great because they'll call you out on it. And it's like, just listen to your clients, listen to what impact you're creating. And if you can't listen to that, how do you judge the impact that they're having on themselves if you can't even catch it for yourself?
Ooh, I love it.
Oh my. I hope everyone's taking notes here. I really hope so. My goodness. Christina, you mentioned a lot of great things, but something that really stood out to me here is that you're spending valuable time on your clients. You want to make them feel important because ultimately you want to get them results. That time, there comes a question that is popping up into my head. Is there a time for yourself, and how are you balancing that?
Oh, absolutely. I'm great with boundaries. I have a cutoff time, which I tell my clients, like, I'm not the one to reach out for in a crisis. Definitely. Right. I will probably not answer in the evenings past like 6 o'clock. I'm having my family time, my separate time. I put my phone down and I don't answer. They have the crisis line. They have their local communities that they can go to for emergencies. I have my chat box that they can leave, but I'll always get to you on my business hours starting in the next morning. I don't work weekends unless it's like pre-planned for that. So I understand how important it is. And I've just hustled for so long already for other people that I've had to break my own boundaries to understand why they're important to hold. And so now for my business, I totally understand. I completely get it because I did and it was intentional, right? Because the kind of work that I did before being in residential and, like, working for foster care, it is a 24/7 commitment. So just because you're working in the office, we have crisis after hours that, like, I gotta go place a kid at 3 a.m. at a foster home, like, and I'm gonna get the call for it, I need to answer. Like, I need to go. That's my commitment for you. If facilities, right, people don't show up, we have kids in a facility that can't be left overnight by themselves, I'm coming in and sleeping there. So I feel like I paid my dues for years on that, and so I knew that, like, when I was gonna start my business, it wasn't gonna be like that. There's no way that that's gonna be necessary, and at the end of the day, I'm virtual. I can't create this image that I'm gonna be there for you 24/7, which is why my practice is so built on independent skill building, that I need to teach you how to survive without me. I need to teach you what it's like to live a life without a therapist. I'm trying to work myself out of a job with you. Like, I give myself a year. Like, I wanna get you out, healed, recovered, and moving forward in a year or less. If you choose to stay with me because you like the guidance, you wanna talk, that's fine. You can absolutely stay. I'll never kick you out after a year. But I need you to be able to feel the results enough to where you can confidently stand on your own. So you're not calling me at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning because I'm not gonna answer anyway, and I don't want you to feel like you need to do that, that you have the confidence in yourself to handle it. gives me the self-care that I need to fully be, invested in my family here and in my time, and then still be fully ready to meet with my clients anytime that I have a session scheduled with them.
You dropped at least 2 or 3 quotes there that are just, picture and frame worthy. Hustled enough. I love that one. I love that one. So, I mean, with all that said, then is there a time where you're thinking about scaling, potentially growing your team?
Oh, no, no, yeah, I've had this question too, and I've toggled with it. I know I definitely wanna become a supervisor. I definitely want to work with other therapists coming into the field and guiding them. But because I've managed before and I know what it's like to run huge teams, I know the commitment that it takes, and I've loved everyone that I have worked with in the past, but to think for myself to do it in this style is a hard no for me. I definitely just want to keep it me, myself, and I, and keep it this way to where I just have to focus on myself. And yeah, I just don't want to be an auditor anymore. I don't want to come behind people and ensure, right? Because there is a lot of enforcement, there is a lot of managing that needs to be done because I have a specific style, a specific outreach that I'm doing, and the kind of work that I want to do. And I would have to meticulously manage each therapist to make sure that that's getting fulfilled. And I'm not willing to take that commitment for my own practice, especially if it's going well, just with myself right now.
So, if you were to, do like a 3-step plan, like 1, 2, 3 for any new therapist that, let's say, would be able to be the perfect candidate for your team, what would you say are the 3 things that they should do to do same success like you?
Okay, so I would say one, get a good supervisor, a supervisor that is willing to guide and correct you, to ensure that you can accept that feedback and apply it, and they're able to build that connection with you. Two, go to your own therapy. Absolutely 100% must. You have to go through your own therapy. Even if you believe that you don't have issues, that's probably one of the main reasons why I want you to go if you think that. And two, even if you do have some issues and you're willing to go, just the fact of putting yourself in that position, you need to know what it's like to be a client. And you need to know what it's like to go in there and be completely vulnerable and sitting in front of a professional and being open and allowing somebody who doesn't know you, but still tell you the things that maybe your family has echoed and like friends have echoed. And maybe you just haven't wanted to listen or just be open to shifting your perspective to understand how difficult that really is. So that way you understand that you don't come in judging clients and you don't get upset when they make mistakes or you don't get upset because they're not listening to your plan. It's like they barely listen to themselves. Why are they going to listen to you? You're a stranger and now you're coming real pushy. And so if you don't have a good supervisor, if you're not doing your own therapy, and if you don't feel the third, you don't feel healed enough to be here. So whatever your issue is, right? Very rarely do we see people come into this field and they had a beautiful upbringing and no trauma and everything was great and you just want to be helpful. There are those people, but it's very rare. And I haven't met a lot of them. We all have a story that led us here and we all want to help people heal for some reason or another. But don't be an unhealed therapist doing therapy. That's my third thing. Like, you cannot be having breakdowns, you cannot be having flashbacks, you cannot be comparing yourself to the clients in front of you, even if it sounds like your dad, and it sounds like your mom, and it sounds like your kid, and maybe they might have the same name and literally say the same things. I can't have you breaking down in front of them. Like, that's just not it's not gonna be good for you or the client, and again, the client is gonna see that and feel that. And so many times I've worked with clients that they tell me their first 2 sessions that they've had is a therapist talking about themselves. And I'm like, how do you go 2 sessions talking about yourself and the client is literally in front of you having some kind of crisis or some issue? So those would be my main things is yeah, get a good supervisor, go to therapy and do your own healing.
I love that one. That last one was pretty funny. It reminds me of, how therapists are portrayed in movies.
I had told Kyle the last time when I got recruited for recovery coaching, that was my mentality. I was like, this is like MTV stuff. Like, why would I want to do that? You're not licensed. But then they were. Once I like looked at the company and everything, then yeah, it was run by a licensed therapist. I'm like, oh, okay. So it's not just a bunch of people who think their lives are great and they have money, to put into a business. And now they're going to go to people's houses and charge them like 2 grand a day to handle this. It's like, that's crazy. So, um, yeah, it was the way we're depicted isn't all that like far off, unfortunately.
Christina, gems all around. I certainly hope it's eye-opening for a lot of people. There was definitely a lot of insights that I found out from you, specifically for the way you've been doing things. And overall, thank you. Thank you for your time.
Of course. Thank you guys for having me again. I really appreciate it. But yeah, I'm just wanting to get the message out there that healing is possible, and I'm definitely focused on it. I've seen it happen. Even if you believe that it can't work for you and that it hasn't worked for you, you still have one more shot. If you're alive, if you're breathing, your brain is functioning, you have one more shot. And I hope that we could take it together.
What a killer message. I absolutely love that. Christina, you are the absolute best. Thank you so much for taking the time to hop back on with us again. This was just great. I love
Yeah,
it.
of course. Anytime, guys.
Well, in that case, until next time then.
Sounds good. Bye.